Italy's last prince of a dying monarchy, the early life of Umberto II. Long before he was exiled from the land of his birth, long before he became the final monarch of a fallen dynasty, Umberto II was simply a young boy growing up under the weight of a crown that was already beginning to slip. Born on September 15th, 1904, at the castle of Racconigi in the Piedmont region of Italy, Umberto Nicola Tommaso Giovanni Maria came into the world as the son of King Victor Emmanuel III and Queen Elena. He was the only male heir to the House of Savoy, the ancient royal house that had unified Italy just decades earlier. He would become the Crown Prince of Italy, known formally as the Prince of Piedmont. From the beginning, his path was carved in marble. As a child, Umberto's life was shaped by ritual, hierarchy, and expectation. He was not allowed to be simply a boy. He was born into a role, a future, and a burden. Raised in palaces and military academies, his days were dictated by tutors, officers, and protocol. He learned about ancient Roman heroes, about Christian duty, and about the divine right of kings, but little about emotional closeness. His father, Victor Emmanuel III, was a small, reserved man who rarely showed affection. His mother, Queen Elena of Montenegro, was warmer, but bound by the constraints of royal decorum. Umberto learned early that feelings were to be managed, not expressed, that personal desires were secondary to national destiny. And Italy, in the early 20th century, was no simple kingdom. The tides of history were shifting. While the young prince studied strategy and Latin, Italian politics grew more volatile. Nationalism surged, socialist protests erupted. And then in 1922, Mussolini marched on Rome and changed everything. Umberto was 18. He watched as his father, seeking to avoid civil war, handed power to Benito Mussolini. The monarchy still stood, but in name only. From then on, the royal family became silent witnesses to fascism's rise, and Umberto, the future king, became a royal mascot in a nation slipping into dictatorship. Publicly, he remained loyal. That was his duty. Privately, he harbored doubts. He trained with the military, rose through the ranks, and participated in state visits. But unlike Mussolini's black shirts, Umberto never appeared at rallies shouting slogans. He was a prince of the old order, measured, distant, ceremonial. And for some, that made him irrelevant. While Europe descended into war, Umberto's life became increasingly symbolic. In 1939, he married Princess Marie José of Belgium in what was seen as a diplomatic alliance more than a love story. Their marriage was fraught with tension. Marie José was cultured, politically aware, and openly critical of Mussolini. She clashed with the court's conservatism. So did Umberto, in his quieter way. But there was little room for dissent in fascist Italy. Then came the war. When the Allies invaded in 1943 and Mussolini's regime collapsed, Victor Emmanuel III made one last attempt to preserve the monarchy. He named Umberto as Lieutenant General of the realm, effectively handing him the powers of a king, without the crown. It was too little, too late. The monarchy had stood by too long. Its silence during fascism had become complicity. The people were no longer loyal. They wanted change. They wanted a republic. In 1946, Victor Emmanuel III abdicated. Umberto finally became king, but he would wear the crown for only 34 days. Italy held a referendum. The vote was clear. The monarchy was over. Umberto, Italy's last king, was forced into exile. He left the country quietly, boarding a plane to Portugal, never to return. He spent the rest of his life in dignified obscurity, living in Cascais near Lisbon. He never abdicated. He never stirred rebellion, and he never stopped calling himself king. In many ways, he was a man of contradictions, trained to rule but never allowed to govern, born to unite but fated to preside over a divided nation. He represented a monarchy that was too slow to evolve, too silent in crisis, and too distant to be saved. But he was also perhaps the most human of kings. He was not a tyrant. He was not a traitor. He was simply the last prince of a fading dream, the dream of Italy as a kingdom. And like many who inherit legacies they did not choose, he tried to uphold a world that was already gone. He died in 1983 in exile, and with him ended the House of Savoy's reign over Italy, not with a revolution, but with silence.